Welcome, everyone, to today's Town of Chatham Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. The date is May 26, 2022. This meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please let us know. This meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted remotely in accordance with Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 and shall afford adequate alternative means of public access via Microsoft Teams by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410. Then you have to punch in the conference ID number, which is 627-947-935, then hit the pound. Or you can join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access, and we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. In accordance with town policy, the public can speak to any issue, hearing, or business item on the agenda during the meeting when recognized by the chair. To authorize this hybrid form of meeting, I will ask for a roll call of all members. So we'll start with the gentleman on the far right.
James Upson, I support.
William Grau, I approve.
Randy Potash, approve.
Paul C. Semple, I approve.
I am David S. Nixon. I approve.
David R. Thompson, I approve.
And David H. Reach, I approve.
Okay. For those who don't know, and I think most everybody here does, but I'll go through it very quickly. The way we conduct the meeting is the lady to my right is Sarah B. Clark. She's the PPO for the town. That's the Principal Permitting Officer. She will read the application. Then the applicant or their representative would present it to the board. Following that, I would ask for anybody either here or in the audience who wishes to speak in favor to do so. I would then read any and all correspondence. Then we would ask for anybody in the audience who wishes to speak either against or has a specific question to do so. Following that, we would have questions from the board members. And following that, we would go into deliberation. Deliberation is strictly amongst the members of the board, and the public's not invited to participate unless a member of the board invites you into it. We would then have a vote. In the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, to be successful, you must get a supermajority. In our case, there are 5 votes on each item. Therefore, you have to get 4 to be successful. I think that's all I need to say about that. Paul, do we want to talk about the minutes from our last meeting?
I will move to approve the minutes as revised.
Dave Reach seconds.
Okay, we need a vote on that. And the voters today are Buck,
Buck votes yes.
Paul,
All votes yes.
Dave Thompson.
I wasn't here.
Yes, you were.
I was?
We have proof. We have photographic evidence you were here.
He wasn't here.
I wasn't here.
Oh, all right.
2 weeks ago?
Yes.
I couldn't be here.
Oh, you're right. All right. Sorry about that.
Dave
Dave,
Reach approves.
let's see. Who voted anyway? Randy? No, Megan voted. Well, I'll vote yes, and that's 4, and that's enough. There you go. No, you weren't here. I tried to make you here, but you wouldn't listen to me. All right. Okay, enough of that stuff. All right. Sarah, we need to start with 22-012, please.
Application number 22-012, Eric and Teresa Peterson, care of William F. Riley Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owners of property located at 45 Hardings Lane, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 14C, Block 30, Lot 21. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the demolition of the existing dwelling and the construction of a new dwelling. Also proposed is a removal of a portion of the existing non-conforming detached garage with living space. The existing dwelling is non-conforming in that it is located 19.4 feet from the southerly abutter. The existing garage is non-conforming in that it is located 10.8 feet from the southerly abutter and 16.2 feet from the easterly abutter, where a 25-foot setback is required. The proposed dwelling will comply with all bulk and dimensional requirements of the bylaw. The proposed garage with living space will remain non-conforming in that it will be located 10.8 feet from the southerly abutter, where a 25-foot setback is required. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 33,258 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required in an R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Protective Bylaw. This was continued from March 10th, 2022, and the applicant will be requesting a withdrawal without prejudice.
We received the following letter from the firm of Riley and Norcross. It was written by Stephanie Welch. She wrote on May 25th. Bill asked me to send along this message to you. Please inform the town of Chatham ZBA that we are requesting withdrawal without prejudice of application 22-012. Bill will not be attending the meeting. Is there any discussion by anybody? Dave?
I'm just curious because I can't recall an instance like this happening in the past. After 2 hearings, we actually approved and now they're seeking a withdrawal. I don't have a problem. I'm just curious how or that came about.
Well, it came about because Bill was in a big rush to get this done. So he tried to convince Sarah and myself that it would be okay to move it up a meeting. And we pointed out to him it was not okay. But if he wished to pay the fees, et cetera, and give Sarah all the information she needed, we could put you on to them. So he spent his client's money, and that's all I can tell you. And you're right. I mean, I can never remember this happening. It's a total waste of time, effort, and money. So, yes, Buck?
And the house is down. Gone.
I'll move to grant the motion for continuance, or, excuse me, withdrawal without prejudice.
Dave Veach seconds.
All right, we need a vote on that. Buck?
Buck approves it.
Paul votes yes.
Dave?
Dave Thompson, yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes. That's a unanimous vote. Thank you. Sarah, 21-093, please.
Application number 21-093, Benjamin Howard Emery, care of William G. Litchfield Esquire, 330 Orleans Road, North Chatham, Mass. 02650. Owner of property located at 624 Orleans Road, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 12J, Block 18, Lot 10A. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming accessory structure, garage, on a non-conforming lot via the construction of an addition. The existing garage is non-conforming in that it is located 11.7 feet from the northerly abutter and 12.7 feet from the westerly abutter. The proposed addition will be non-conforming in that it will be located 8.9 feet from the northerly abutter and 1 foot from the westerly abutter, where a 25-foot setback is required. The existing building coverage is 2,532 square feet, 16.4%, and the proposed building coverage is 2,862 square feet, 18.5%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 15,452 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Protective Bylaw. This was continued from January 13th, 2022.
On Tuesday, May 17th, Mr. Litchfield wrote and said, "I'll ask on May 26th that this be continued to July 14th. Would you like any explanation or no?"
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bill Litchfield, on behalf of the applicant. I'm going to be continuing to work with my friend Michael Ford to resolve some neighborhood concerns.
Very good. Okay. Any questions?
I'll move to grant the requested continuance to July 14th of this year.
Dave Veach seconds.
Okay. Buck?
Buck says yes.
Paul?
Paul votes yes.
Dave?
Dave Thompson, yes.
Dave?
Dave Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes. That's a unanimous vote. Thank you, Mr. Litchfield. Okay, Sarah, 22-030.
Application number 22-030, William and Susan O'Reilly, care of William G. Litchfield Esquire, 330 Orleans Road, North Chatham, Mass. 02650. Owners of property located at 158 Main Street, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 17C, Block 59, Lot 38. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the construction of
Thank you,
additions
sir.
and the installation of a new foundation. The existing dwelling is non-conforming in that it is located 8.4 feet from the road, where a 25-foot setback is required. 11.7 feet from the southerly abutter, and 4.1 feet from the northerly abutter. The proposed addition will be non-conforming in that they will be located 4.4 feet from the northerly abutter where a 15-foot setback is required. The existing building coverage is 1,112 square feet, 15.8%, and the proposed building coverage is 1,280 square feet, 18.1%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 7,059 square feet, where 20,000 square feet is required in the R20 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Protective Bylaw.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Bill Litchfield here on behalf of Bill and Susan O'Reilly, who regrettably could not be here today. I am here on their behalf in regard to what is known among historic aficionados as the Sumner Bradley Mayo House in the Old Village, which is a classic half-cape that Bill and Susan have owned for the last 20-odd years. And they have known all those years, the house is just about 200 years old, and for that 200 years, it has been sitting on the ground, which is not particularly helpful toward the preservation of an older house. So they propose two things today. One is to put a foundation under the house, get it up off of the dirt, have a full basement under the house, and also to, while they're doing that, to make two fairly modest additions, one on the south side, which is completely on the footprint of the existing house where the cursor is there, and then on the north side to make an addition set back from Main Street so that it won't have much impact on the historic facade. It won't have any impact on the historic facade, and I think, as I'll touch on later, will have minimal impact, if any, on the streetscape. But that will allow for an expanded kitchen, not an enormous kitchen, but an expanded kitchen, and also on the second story, a somewhat larger master bedroom in the rear of the house. The house has, like virtually every house in the Old Village, had extensions and additions and expansions over the years. I can't think of a single house in the Old Village that hasn't had some changes. And if you think about the nature of historic structures, they are expanded, they are changed to meet the needs of the owners and the families at the time. Unlike some changes, though, this one is fairly modest, and particularly because it's in the Old Village and the O'Reillys have owned it and appreciate their neighborhood, they designed it so that the changes, as shown there, won't really be seen. Unfortunately, that's a two-dimensional view. But what is shown to the left with the arrow is set back from Main Street, and because of the proximity of the house on the north side, when you're driving down toward the lighthouse, you won't be able to see that. It's set back, and you went out there, you saw. I trust that not one of you, or that not more than two of you, tried to visit at the same time, because finding a place to park would have been a challenge. But as you can see there, the location of the houses on the north and the south, you won't be able to see. The only place you'll be able to see these changes is from the backyard from the O'Reilly's house. So I'll go into the criteria, which are adequacy of site, including building coverage and setbacks. We have currently, again, a typical Old Village non-conforming lot, certainly adequate for the 19th century home that exists now, notwithstanding the proximity to the street and to the sidelines in both the north and the south. If you approve the special permit, you can do so based on a finding the site is adequate for raising the house 1 foot to allow for a basement and thereby taking the house off of the dirt, and the addition of 168 square feet of additional coverage set back further from the street, which will, by the way, encroach less into the setback than does the existing house. As to compatibility of size, all of the lots in the area were created before zoning. Coverage ranges up to 28%, with our house at 15.8%. The house is, and if you approve the special permit, will remain compatible. The footprint, living area, and gross floor area, as shown on the third page of the handout, are among the lowest in the neighborhood. If you approve the special permit, it will remain compatible. The additional foot in height will be far below the limit on height. And again, that change is sought largely for preservation purposes. The incremental coverage, increase in coverage will not make us inconsistent. We will in fact be consistent. And as it's been designed by Mark Zebrat of Zebrat and McCarthy to minimize impact on its surroundings. As to the extent of increase in nonconformity, Sarah, in her reading, indicated we have lot size, street and sideline, and coverage nonconformities. As with all but one nearby property, we are nonconforming as to coverage. It will increase, but just by 168 square feet and will remain a small house. In getting ready for today's hearing, I looked at some of the coverages in the old village that I didn't put on the sheet because everybody's non-conforming. But I looked at 90 Silver Leaf and 96 Silver Leaf and 75 Water and 10 Mill Hill, an array of them, all have coverage in excess of 30%. All of them won preservation awards. It suggests to me that having a increase in coverage in the old village is not necessarily a bad thing. It's part of the charm of the old village, but this is a small increase. As to suitability of site, impact the natural environment, the site has been developed for residential use for 200 years, and there are no wetlands issues, no environmental concerns. Scale, sighting, mass, views, and vistas is a particular concern in the old village. We have a classic half cape in an area with a variety of styles, and Bill and Susan want to preserve the house, and that's why they've designed what they've designed, aside from the basement and the foundation. The additional foot of height will, of course, help to preserve the house, but the small additions are completely in keeping with the adaptation of older homes and will have a minimum impact on scale or streetscape. At the end of your handout, there is correspondence from Sarah Korjeff of the Historical Commission, pages 4 and 5 of the handout. The Historical Commission, because they looked at the two-dimensional elevation, they were concerned that it might have some negative impact on the streetscape, so they asked Sarah Korjeff to review the matter. Sarah, as you know, is extremely well respected, and she indicated, I think correctly, that this really can't be seen from the street because of where it's situated. And in the underlined language, she says that as proposed, there are no changes to the original half cape other than elevating it 1 foot. While the increase in height will be visible, it will not have a negative impact on the structure's historic character defining features and may enable the building's long-term preservation by preventing decay. Locating the modest size additions at the rear avoids impacting any character defining features of the half cape. Proposed additions are set far enough back to preserve the original half cape as a distinct element. And she goes on to say the small portion of the addition will be higher than the half cape is set further back from the lot and has small dimensions. As such, the half cape itself will remain prominent, and that, I think, speaks well of my clients and their designer, Mark Zebrat. As to compatibility of use, there's no change. We have a residential use. The health agent has indicated, as the chair will read, that there are no concerns about the number of bedrooms because there is no change. So the question, as you know, is whether raising this house 1 foot to allow for a basement, excuse me, with 168 square foot, pardon me, increase in coverage in the small addition on the south side above the existing structure, with both toward the rear of the house, is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. I think that you can find that it is not. The absolute increase in coverage, the number is small. It's to 18.1%, which is consistent with but less than several neighboring properties. The Historical Commission, again, having a concern, had it reviewed it to the Cape Cod Commission's expert, and you have her letter. The petitioners, I think you can find, have been good stewards of this old village structure. They've owned it for 10% of its 200-year history, and they're taking steps to preserve it. Virtually every house in the old village has had additions and extensions as adaptations to needs, and what is proposed is consistent with that, but has been designed to be sensitive to the area. So in light of the criteria and the plans, I think that you can find that the proposed changes are not substantially detrimental to the neighborhood. I'd certainly be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone here or on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak in favor of this application? If so, please indicate now that you would like to join the meeting.
I see no one that wishes to speak in favor.
Then I'll read the correspondence. The first is dated May 10th. It's from Michelle Clark. The applicant was before the Historical Commission on both April 19th and May 3rd, proposing a partial demolition of the existing structure to accommodate an addition and a new foundation. The commission members reaffirmed that the structure is historically significant and is also a contributing structure in the Old Village National Registered District. The commission determined that the proposed modifications do not negatively affect the historic significance of the structure, nor do they constitute a substantial alteration. As such, there was no referral to the Cape Cod Commission or demolition delay imposed. Then we have a memo. This is from Judith Giorgio, the health agent for the town. She writes on 5/23, I've reviewed the plan to add an addition. There will be no increase in septic flow. The addition will not encroach on the existing septic system. I have no concerns. Then we have a letter. This is from Ursula Odiaga Iannoni, and she writes, I am writing in support of their request to make some modest changes. I have known Billy since high school and know that he and Susan love and respect the historic essence of Chatham. I was delighted when they bought 2 houses down from our former home at 170 Main Street, which we owned and loved for 50 years. The O'Reilly's proposal is appropriate to the old village and will add value to it and the town. I hope the ZBA will approve their request. And then we have an email. This is from John and Susan Frazier. They write on May 11th. They are of 136 Main Street, have no objections to the O'Reilly plan for expansion. The O'Reilly family has always kept a neat and tasteful home, so we, the Fraziers, support this endeavor. Is there anyone here today or in the audience that wishes to speak against this application or has a specific question? If so, please indicate on the screen that you would like to enter the meeting.
I see no one that wishes to speak in opposition or has a specific question.
Okay, we'll have questions from the board. Mr. Thompson.
Thank you. Bill, I have no questions at all.
I have no questions, Dave.
Buck?
Bill, during your presentation, several times you referenced the increased coverage of homes in the village, and in fact, noted that they had been given preservation awards. And in your handout showing the houses in the neighborhood, you showed increases over the 15%. And yet, I think I've heard several times on this side of the podium that past decisions have set no precedents. Can you explain how your justification for this, based on all the facts of the homes in the village all expanding backwards and are bigger than 15%, aren't you basing your presentation on precedents?
No, I don't think so. I think that, first, several responses. Every piece of real estate is unique, inherently so. But what your criteria, what you're charged with reviewing, is whether the proposed change of a non-conforming property is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. I do this as a courtesy for you. There's no requirement that I do it, but because you're looking at the neighborhood, I'm trying to show consistency with neighboring numbers. Every piece of real estate is unique, but my point in doing this is to indicate to you that coverage of 18.1% is consistent with the size of the neighborhood, because one of the criteria, one of the categories that you evaluate is the compatibility with the neighboring properties. So some of these houses may have gone before the Zoning Board of Appeals. Some of them may have, I don't know, because I don't know, some do. But no, there's no value to something, because Joe got it doesn't mean Sally's going to get it. That's not the point at all. It's to show that this is compatible and to show that it will not be substantially detrimental to the neighborhood because it's consistent with the neighborhood.
Thank you. Bill?
No questions.
Andy?
No questions.
Paul?
No questions.
And I have none.
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds.
Need a vote on that, Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Paul?
All votes yes?
Dave?
I vote yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, deliberations, Dave each.
This is, the owners are to be congratulated. This is a tremendously skillful addition to this house in a way that will fit and will not be, certainly not substantially detrimental to the neighborhood. It will continue to fit into the neighborhood. It will be a welcome to raise that house and add a little bit on it. It's so skillfully done, and I applaud the efforts of the designer and the owners and yours as well. This meets all of our criteria, and I certainly would hope to see down the road that this house being submitted for a preservation award, because I think they would deserve one. Thanks.
I agree with David, and I will support it with reservations.
Bill?
I would also agree. I think it's an excellent plan, and it's certainly not substantially detrimental to the neighborhood, and I wish him luck.
Randy?
I think Dave Veach said it perfectly for all of us.
Paul?
Yes, I agree with Dave Veach. I think the comments from Sarah Korja were very helpful. So that's my view at this point.
Dave?
I agree with everybody that had spoken prior to me. Looks like it's a wonderful job. I'm behind it 100%. I will vote in favor.
Do we even want to think about conditions? I mean, where it is,
Well, it's certainly congested. I guess the question is, how much work is involved here, Bill, and when will it take place?
This is probably not going to happen on the 4th of July weekend. We will grant you that concession. I think it's highly unlikely that we would even think about starting before Labor Day. And in discussions with Bill O'Reilly, he plans on using a contractor who is well-respected in the Old Village, Tim Smith of Minglewood. Tim has better sense than to try to do something in the summer. Mr. O'Reilly, having gotten some quotes, is not sure that he will ever be able to afford the project, but that's a separate matter. I don't think we'd have any problem with a post-Labor Day condition.
Well, I guess on that basis, I'll move to approve the application as submitted with the concept that construction would begin after Labor Day.
And but
yeah.
Paul, I mean, clearly, in this instance, the standard wording about vehicles kept on-site or with the permission of neighbors I would think would apply, because they don't have any space to
Right, yeah.
do otherwise, really.
So you'd like to add that condition?
I would think so. I mean, we do, I don't think,
That would be all construction activity and vehicles will be contained on site or neighboring property with the permission of the property owner. Is that doable?
Well, the only concern I have, and Mr. Veach lives in the neighborhood, I'm not sure that's feasible, because there is no room on neighboring properties. They have the same issue. I have from time to time seen construction vehicles parked on Lower Main Street, not during the summer, but presumably with the knowledge or cooperation of the police department and so forth. I almost think this is sort of a common sense project that any builder and contractor is going to have to be reasonable in their approach to it. Obviously, we'll live with whatever conditions you impose, but I don't, David,
Yeah.
and
Bill, you've convinced me. I mean, I don't think we need to put it on. It's not, it can't, I mean, that Main Street being Main Street, I mean, from time to time, a vehicle might be parked there briefly, but it can't be there for long under any circumstances. So they're going to have to find a way to work this out, and I don't think we need to do it via condition after all. Sorry to have brought it up, Dave.
All right, well, in that case, we'll simply leave it with the first condition that construction would not begin until after Labor Day.
Dave Veach seconds.
Before we have a vote, Bill, do you know if Lighthouse Lane is a private road or is it a town?
I believe Lighthouse is private.
Is that right? Because that would be the logical place to park, not on Main Street, but across the street, because you're just across the street. So but that's pushing it,
Well,
yeah?
Lighthouse is what I used to park when I initially went over there because I wasn't sure I could find a spot on Main Street, so. But there are two houses on Lighthouse with a cul-de-sac, and it's basically summer use, I think.
Well, one of the folks that live there are year-round.
Oh, okay.
The Whalen family.
Oh,
So I like the chair's suggestion, and I was wondering, is Andrew Harding Lane a good idea?
Not as good as Lighthouse. But then we, now
I'm
we're
looking
starting
at
to
what's
pick
better than Main Street,
Yeah,
and the answer would be almost anything.
yeah.
And the way Andrew Harding sort of jogs south, I think it ends up pretty much in their backyard, although you might not be able to walk through there, but and it's in the fall, in the winter. I would think, well, I'll
Yeah,
let you guys chew on it.
I think I'm more inclined to just not touch that area.
Yeah, I agree.
And just leave it.
I mean, there are alternatives, but as Mr. Litchfield has said, Tim Smith is a very responsible individual, and he'll have to figure it out. I'm sure he doesn't want to be parked on Main Street. Okay. All right, so we've had that one condition, right?
Correct.
Okay. So would you move the whole question, please, with that question?
Yes, I'll move approval of the application as submitted with the provision that construction begin after Labor Day.
Dave Veach seconds.
Okay, we need a vote on that, Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Paul?
All votes yes?
Dave T?
Yes, sir.
V?
Dave Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes, that's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much,
Thank you
Mr.
very much.
Litchfield. Okay, Sarah, let's see, what do we got next? We got 22-036.
Application number 22-036, the Summer Family Trust, care of Michael D. Ford Esquire, P.O. Box 485, West Harwich, Mass. 02671. Owners of property located at 28 Cross Street, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 15D, Block 4, Lot X28. The applicant proposes to construct an accessory use swimming pool in a GB1 zone, which requires the grant of a special permit. The proposed swimming pool will comply with all the dimensional requirements of the bylaw. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 9, and Section 3C4C of the Chatham Protective Bylaw.
Mr. Ford?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Zoning Board, Attorney Mike Ford representing the petitioners, the Summer Family Trust. They own one of the units at the the old Bradford, now Cross Street Landing. And this is a property that some of the board members were involved in with the initial permit back in 2013, where the Bradford was permitted on the issuance of a special permit and other non-conforming relief to become 8 single-family dwellings, is how it was described in the special permit in 2013. And so the Summers have, as a pertinent to their unit, as all the units there have, what's called an exclusive use area. And within the exclusive use area, the unit owner has a right to make improvements. Those improvements are kind of in 2 tiers. One, landscaping and maintenance of landscaping is theirs to do with no prior approval needed. Structures such as this swimming pool require the plans to be submitted simply to the condominium association. And then the master deed, as I read it, of the condominium, provides that the trustees don't take any action on the submittal, but rather they defer to the HBDC. And if the person proposing it gets a permit from the town of Chatham to proceed with the work, particularly a permit from the HBDC, then the master deed says that the approval from the HBDC shall be conclusive evidence of approval on behalf of the condominium association. So it was a different provision than what you're usually used to, where you apply and you go through a long architecture review process, or a short one, as the case may be, depending on how many unit owners, and then a decision is made by the condominium association and it is issued. But this one delegates it to the HBDC. So the applicant has gone to the HBDC, and after hearing there, the HBDC did in fact approve the pool and issue a certificate of appropriateness. Because this is as you're looking at the condominium, the last unit down on the left, there was some question, frankly, as to whether you could see the pool from the public way, cross street. But nevertheless, they decided to take jurisdiction. They heard it, and as I say, they issued the certificate of appropriateness. Being the last unit down and the pool being located to the right and behind the unit, there also was a filing needed with the Conservation Commission, because you may be familiar, the property kind of slopes off in the back and goes down, and so it did trigger a filing with Conservation, and they have approved it as well. So there have been two committees that have looked at this prior to you. Sarah Clark and Jay Briggs and I struggled a little bit as to whether any zoning relief was necessary. We looked at the prior special permits, and it didn't appear that those necessarily required this type of structure in the exclusive use area to come back. But since it is in the GB1 district, generally, accessory uses, as I understand it, in the GB1 district require a special permit. And this being accessory to the condominium, which is viewed, at least under the special permit decision, as a single-family dwelling, it was our collective decision, we need a special permit. And so that's how we got here, and that was the kind of the thinking that preceded that. So with that, I'll run through the criteria, if I might. So first, adequacy of size of the site, including but not limited to maximum lot or building coverage or setbacks. The pool will be located on the exclusive use area for this unit, so as not to be out of conformance with any of the bulk or dimensional requirements of the bylaw. Compatibility of the size of the proposed structures with neighboring properties, not really applicable here. This would be the only pool in Cross Street that I'm familiar with. My recollection when we did the Bradford, I represented the individual who initially brought that proposal to the town, Mr. Oppenheim. There was a pool there, I think for the Bradford. It was a fairly substantial pool that was taken out, but it was used for the hospitality use that was there prior. So I'm not sure that, I don't think this will be incompatible. He has shopped it around with the other unit owners and has generally received, my understanding anyway, that they have no objection to it. Extent of the proposed increase in nonconforming nature, there really isn't an increase in nonconforming nature. The property has been changed by issuance of a special permit from the hospitality use, the hotel motel, to 8 single-family dwelling units that are in a condominium form of ownership. So there really isn't any change in a non-conforming use. It's just something that in a GB1 zone, a swimming pool requires a special permit. So there's no increase in nonconforming nature of the structure or the use. Impact on neighboring properties, the natural environment, wetlands. I don't believe there'll be a negative impact on the natural environment. As I've indicated, and you will read, Mr. Chairman, the Conservation Commission did hear this and did issue an approval. Impact of scale, siting, and mass, including views, vistas, and streetscapes. Again, it's questionable as whether you'll be able to see the pool from Cross Street, which is the streetscape. So I don't think the way it's been designed and with the approval of the HBDC that it will have a negative impact on the vista there. Compatibility of the proposed use with neighboring uses. It's a pool that's accessory to a single-family dwelling. In the area of Cross Street, as you go back on Cross Street, there are numerous swimming pools next to dwellings all through that area. Adequacy of method of sewage disposal, there's no issue here. I think you will read, Mr. Chairman, a letter from the Board of Health to that effect. I don't see impact on traffic flow and safety. With the question of noise, I think that the pool being accessory to this unit, that it will not create noise that will have a negative impact. And I think he's discussed that with the other unit owners, Mr. Summers has. And there are adequate utilities and other public services. So I think, Mr. Chairman, you can find that this will not be substantially detrimental to the neighborhood and that a special permit could issue.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Is there anyone in the audience and Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak in favor of this application? Please indicate you would like to join the meeting.
I see no one that wishes to speak in favor.
Then I'll read the correspondence. First, this is a memo from Judith Giorgio, Board of Health. She writes on 5/24, this property is served by a municipal sewer system. The pool as proposed has no adverse health impacts on the property. Then we have an email. This is from Nicole Smith. She writes on May 17th, the project was approved by the Conservation Commission and a permit was issued 4/14/2022. Then we have a certificate of appropriateness. This is from the HBDC. They write that on May 16th, the HBDC met and rendered the following decision with regard to your application. The commission voted 3 in favor, 2 in opposition, and 0 abstaining to approve it. And with the thing, any changes have to be brought back before them. And then we have a note. This is from Tom and Carol Odell. They're at 423 Main Street. They write on May 23rd. We're writing to oppose this application to permit a swimming pool. Several years ago, the ZBA did not allow the permitting of a pool at 416 Main because it was in a GB2 district. Having written to express our opposition to a pool in a business district then, we remain consistent that there should be no pools allowed in business districts now. We hope you will consider your past decision and continue not allowing pools in business districts. And that's the extent of the correspondence. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak either against this application or has a specific question? If so, please indicate on the Microsoft Teams that you would like to join the meeting.
I see no one that wishes to speak in opposition or has a specific question.
So we'll have questions from the board. Bob?
I have no questions.
Do you know where the zoning where the line is between the business zone and the residential zone on Cross Street?
I know that this property is in the business zone.
Yeah, right.
And
I mean, is it on the back? Do we know, Sarah?
I'm pulling it
Yeah.
up right now.
I think it turns into residential as you go down Cross Street after.
I'm sure. I'm just wondering, like, if it's,
Yeah,
where.
I think the whole former Bradford property was in the business zone.
it was.
Right.
Yeah, that's what the special permit says, so that, so I can at least say that this is in it.
Bill, I think that as you go down Cross Street, this is the end of it. This is the end of this. So then you move into a different world.
Yeah, I think you're right, Mrs. Nixon.
Might be something to
So
address
the-
there.
Bill, if you look on the screen, the orange color signifies the GB1 zone.
Okay.
Green is municipal. When you get to the sort of taupe color, that's the R20 zone.
Yeah, so it's right there. Okay. And when I was out there, you know, and I look at the site plan, it looks like the site plan tried to curve that patio inside the 50-foot buffer in the back corner, but the stake was clearly into the buffer zone. Do you know anything about that?
I don't. I wasn't involved in conservation. Coastal engineering took it through conservation, but I do know.
That back left corner, well,
Yeah.
as you're looking at it.
Yeah, I do know that the conservation has approved it, but I wasn't involved in that part of it, so I'm not really familiar with the stake that you're talking about.
Yeah, clearly it was into the buffer. That's
I
what
mean,
didn't know.
clearly, there is an approved plan at conservation, and there is an approved plan at the HBDC, and the only thing that we're asking for here is the pool. So unless something is on either the plan that's here, which is the same plan that was filed with HBDC, or on the conservation plan, they've got to do it in accordance with those two approvals without getting an amendment of some type. So they can't change it. So whether there was a stake that was in the wrong place, I don't know.
Okay.
Bill, Sean Rowley's on Microsoft Teams.
Oh, he is? Oh, great. I didn't
Yeah.
realize. I was
He
hoping he
is.
might be.
And so, Mr. Riley, could you answer Bill's question, please?
Yes, the proposed pool and patio are definitely to be located outside of the 50-foot buffer, and nothing is to be within the no disturb zone. So if the stake appeared to be within the buffer zone, it was mistakenly placed. But we have to provide an as-built when we're done, which will reflect that.
Okay, thanks.
Randy?
Thank you. So I have two questions.
Sure.
When you talked about all the other pools in the area, were they actually in the GB or were they in the residential?
I think the
If you
pools
know.
that I'm familiar with are
Right.
farther down Cross Street, so they're probably more in the residential.
Right, okay.
And if I may, just to embellish on that a little bit, and I was going to get to it, and I'm sure the chairman would allow me perhaps at this point. This gets to the issue of Tom and Carol Odell's letter. I understand where they're coming from. But I don't think that a bylaw, zoning bylaw, that says an accessory use, which includes a swimming pool under the definition, is allowable on special permit, that the Board of Appeals can simply take the position, oh, we're going to prohibit those in the GB1 zone. That's not what the bylaw says. The bylaw says they can be allowed by special permit. So you have to listen to each case.
Right.
And you have discretion, and you try to decide whether you think it meets the special permit criteria. But Tom and Carol are saying, well, you denied it there, you should always deny it anytime there's a pool in a business zone. I think this one's different, and I think it is because the Board of Appeals in 2013 specifically made a finding to change the use of this property on issuance of a special permit from a hospitality use, which was the Bradford, to 8 single-family homes. So this is different than the rest of the business district where you might have a property here or a house there or something, somebody's trying to put a pool behind it or behind a business. That isn't what's going on here. This is clearly residential by virtue of that special permit.
Okay, so I was asking about where the other pools were, but that's fine.
Yeah.
And then the other, now I think I lost my train of thought. If you know, and because it's your case, I think maybe you will, what was the issue with 2 of the conservation members, if you know?
Was the actual, right?
No, that was the HBDC.
The
Oh,
vote
I'm sorry.
we're talking about was HBDC voted 3 in favor, 2 against.
Conservation, do you know what their vote was?
I don't. My son Jeff, who's in my office, did that hearing, and I
Yes.
was not there for that
Okay,
hearing.
so you don't.
I
all right,
remember
that's
asking
fine.
about it afterwards, and he said it was a 3-2 vote, but they did approve it. But I wasn't there for it. I apologize.
So
I can't.
conservation was a 3-2 vote?
No, HBDC.
Okay, but what about conservation? Do you know what they?
Sean did that. He'll probably know.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
That was unanimous.
Unanimous
Oh,
in
good, good
yeah.
enough, thank you.
Randy, I think that we could ask Sarah that question.
He said that it was unanimous.
No, you were going back to your 3-2 vote.
I
Sarah is the executive secretary for the HBDC.
Okay. I wasn't that curious about the HBDC. I was more curious about the conservation with regard to a pool, but if you'd like to share that, that's great.
Yeah, I'm quite curious about it.
The HBDC had concerns for a pool within their district. They weren't sure it was necessarily appropriate for a business district, a historic business district.
Okay,
Good to know. Thank you.
thank you.
I have no questions.
I have no questions.
Sarah answered my question, so fine. I have no other questions, Dave.
Okay, all right.
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds.
Vote?
Votes yes.
Paul votes yes.
Dave votes yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
I vote yes. Okay, we'll start with Bill.
I think I would have concerns of a pool in a commercial district, which I don't really consider this. I mean, I know it's zone commercial, but it might be something that the town may want to address at some point because it's obviously not a commercial use in there in that condominium. These are single-family detached homes, and I think given that and given the fact that it is pretty well hidden back behind Cross Street, if voting, I would support the application.
Randy?
Because it's hidden, I would probably support it if I was voting.
Paul?
Yes, I think it definitely has been turned into a residential neighborhood. I can remember asking at the time, Dave Oppenheim, why change the commercial into residential? I thought commercial was valuable and important and needed in downtown Chatham. And he basically explained that once you get off Main Street and you're no longer in that commercial zone, you have a tougher time doing the commercial transactions. But it seems to me it clearly is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. It's very isolated, and you barely can't see it. Even when you're in front of the condominium itself, you can't see it. So I intend to support it.
Dave?
I'm going to agree with everyone else. You can't possibly see it from Cross Street. It's all you can do to see it from the house there. It's so low and whatever. It's not detrimental as far as I'm concerned. I will vote to approve it.
Well, maybe if you were really trying to see it from the parking lot behind the Orpheum in that area, you might be able to see where the pool was located, but you wouldn't be able to see the pool, I don't believe. I think this meets all of our criteria, is not substantially more detrimental. I see this differently than the pool that the Odells referenced, which was on Main Street. And I can't remember how I voted with that. I think I might have been against it with the idea that I didn't feel that was an appropriate location for a pool. This is very much different, the siting of this pool with respect to the residential uses around it. And I don't think you'll be able to see it from almost anywhere, and I don't think it's going to have any kind of negative impact. And it is true, as Paul said, that especially to the back part of that property, even though it's business zoned, has limited value as a commercial type of use. So all things considered, I will support this.
Buck?
Well, unless you have a drone, you can't see it. And our fellow friends at Conservation had no problem with it. So that's 2 for me. I'll support it.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the application as submitted. I guess the question becomes, how do you get construction done in that location?
Yeah, so I look back at the original permit in 2013, and the board put a prohibition on any exterior construction out there from June 21st to September 10th, I recall. So you may, I don't think the condominium association wants it during the summer anyway, so this will be a fall project. So You may want to put that same condition in, because I think the board felt strongly about that then in 13. But
How about the condition about construction activity and vehicles will be contained on site?
I think, given the fact that a lot of the units are seasonally occupied, that Mr. Summer and his contractor can figure out how to keep them off the public ways. So I don't think that's a problem.
All right, so standard conditions, all construction activity and vehicles be contained on site or on the neighboring properties with permission of the owners? That between June 30th and Labor Day, no exterior construction will be allowed, no work shall be permitted on the weekends, and construction activity would be between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. only?
Okay? The old permit said June 21st rather than June 30th. I don't know if there's any magic about that, but that's what the board decided on the prior one.
Well, why don't we make it consistent? We'll make it June 21st and September 10th. Okay?
That's fine.
Yeah, I think, Paul, that they'll have to talk to the condominium association
Yes.
about using the roads there, but that's what makes sense. It really does. Okay,
Second, do I second? Was that a
well,
Oh, we
let's
haven't,
discuss
we
it
haven't,
now. We'll have
all
a
right.
motion
all right.
that incorporates that.
I'll move to approve the application on the basis of those conditions that we just outlined.
Dave Veach seconds.
Buck votes yes.
Paul?
Paul votes yes.
Dave?
Dave Thompson, yes.
Dave Veach, yes.
And I vote yes, that's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much, Mr. Ford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members.
Okay, 22-037, please.
Application number 22-037, Lauren Moggensen, care of Paul Mazzola, P.O. Box 509, Marston's Mills, Massachusetts, 02648. Owners of property located at 14 Wentworth Lane, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 14J, Block 41, Lot R49. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a nonconforming dwelling on a nonconforming lot via the construction of a second-floor addition. The existing dwelling is nonconforming, and that it is located 19.3 feet from the southerly abutter and 24 feet from the northerly abutter. The proposed second-floor addition will increase the building height within the required 25-foot northerly abutter setback. The building coverage will remain 2,881 square feet, where 2,900 square feet are the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 24,279 square feet in an R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Protective Bylaw.
Do we have a presenter? Is there anyone in the audience?
I'm sorry, yes, I'm here, Paul Mazzola here, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, and please identify yourself.
This is Paul Mazzola, GCI Builders.
Okay.
Representing this project, yes.
All right. The floor is yours.
Oh, okay. Basically, we're asking to, the existing garage, we're asking to turn the attic into a second floor room. The ridge height will increase to just under the existing main body of the house. It will not be any higher than the existing structure. Which, no footprint change, of course, no extensions outside of that. We're just trying to get them some living space on top of the garage, which will be entered from the existing second floor structure. So we had no idea that when the building was built back in the day that the garage was a non-conforming. Of course, that came up, so that's why we're having a talk with you to find out if we can turn the attic into a living space.
Okay, would that be your presentation?
That's all I got.
Let me ask the members, would anyone like to hear this gentleman go through the criteria? I don't see that there seems to be anyone in favor of that. Okay, then thank you very much. Then I'll ask, is there anyone in Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak in favor of this application? If so, please indicate it on the screen now you wish to enter the meeting.
I see no one that wishes to speak in favor.
Okay, I'll read the correspondence, which consists of a memo from Judith Giorgio, the health agent. She writes on 5/23, "I reviewed the plan to add an addition. There will be no increase in septic flow. The addition will not encroach on the existing septic system. I have no concerns." And that's the extent of that. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak either against or has a specific question on this application? If so, please indicate through Microsoft Teams on the screen that you wish to enter the meeting.
I see no one that wishes to speak in opposition or has a specific question.
Okay, we'll have questions from the board. Randy?
I have no questions.
Paul?
I have no questions.
Dave T?
Dave T., no questions.
Dave E?
No questions.
Buck?
Is Mr. Clark on Zoom, or he's not here? He's not here? Mr. Mazzola,
Yes.
on the blueprint that Clark did, not you, there's a proposed trench drain at the end of the driveway, one of the only ones in the neighborhood, and I salute somebody for at least including that. Were there any calculations on how big this leach pit is gonna be? How do we know it'll handle all the water that's coming down that driveway with a 1 or 2 inch storm?
I guess I'm not following, sir. I'm not doing any.
It's already existing.
It's already existing house, sir. All we're doing is existing garage, the roof, amount of water coming off the roof, we're going to into the same locations that's going now into the drains. I'm not aware of the drainage at all. It has nothing to really do to my end of this project. But again, no increase of anything else except the roof going up 8 feet higher than it is now.
Buck, I can answer that question for you. This was submitted to show the dwelling as proposed. That plan was from 2003 when the house was originally constructed.
One more time?
This plan, the plan that you're referencing, Clark did in 2003 from when the house was proposed to be constructed.
Oh.
So the previous plan, the first plan in your packet, is the more up-to-date plan that was done by an engineer out of Sandwich that shows the encroachment of the setbacks. Since there is no increase in building coverage, they just provided us with the setbacks. So that would be the page 1 that says garage addition as-built plan.
So under criteria 4, where we've talked about before, stormwater runoff, they're not, they had it on the plan 2003. I don't believe I saw it there. And so they didn't put it in. They don't have to put it in, or? That's a lot of water.
I'm not
and it's
certain.
at the top of a hill, and
I'm not certain if this project came before the board in 2003. I can look that up for you, though.
so I have a concern about that. That's,
Okay.
no more questions.
Bill?
No questions.
Nope, no questions.
No questions. But I think I'm ready to go with a motion to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave, each seconds.
All right. Need a vote on that, Buck?
I vote on going into deliberation.
Yep. Paul?
All votes yes.
Dave?
Dave votes yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes. Okay. Then we'll start with Paul.
Well, it appears to me that there's no change really in the drainage arrangement that has been previously approved, since we're basically just raising the roof, and the same amount of water is going to be coming off and dealt with as was the case with the original approval. So, and given the way the house is sited, it really is going to be in the back of this whole lot that this activity is taking place. So I don't see this having any substantially detrimental effect on the neighborhood.
Dave T.
I agree with Paul. All we're doing here is raising the roof. 8 feet? I can't see where the water is a problem. I will definitely vote for it. Thank you.
Dave V.
I agree with previous comments.
Buck.
So I guess nobody wants to condition it, so I won't support it.
Bill.
Yeah, I wouldn't have anything to add to what was said.
Randy.
No would I.
Okay. So Paul, what sort of condition would you suggest on this?
Well, I would think that we would want, given the setback area here and the area that they have to work with, that we could go with standard conditions in terms of construction activity and vehicles being contained on site. There's not much of a neighborhood that can be disturbed here, because we've just got one house and a couple of other houses, that large lots. So I don't think there's a need for any other conditions.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
So I'll move to approve the application as submitted with the condition that all construction activity and vehicles be contained on site or on neighboring properties with permission of the owners.
Dave Veach seconds.
Okay, then we need a vote. Buck.
Buck votes no.
Paul.
Paul votes yes.
Dave.
Dave Thompson, yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes, so that's a 4-to-1 vote, therefore that passes. Thank you very much, Mr. Mazzola.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, board.
Okay, we have 22-040.
Application number 24-040. GK Chatham LLC, care of Justin Horton, 12 Tower Hill Circle, Brewster, Mass. 02631. Owner of property located at 27 Windsong Landing, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 13C, Block 22E, Lot W5. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a nonconforming dwelling on a nonconforming lot via the construction of a deck. The existing dwelling is nonconforming, and that it is located 23.4 feet from the northerly abutter. The proposed deck will be nonconforming, in that it will be located 22.1 feet from the northerly abutter, where a 25-foot setback is required. The lot is nonconforming, in that it contains 20,705 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the protective bylaw.
So I guess we're looking for Justin Wharton. Are you out there, Justin? I see your name or your initials.
Justin, you will need to unmute yourself. If you called in on the phone, Justin, you can hit *6 to unmute your cell phone. If you're on the computer, you'll need to hover either at the top of your screen where you see the little microphone button, or at the bottom of your screen, you should see that as well.
Okay.
Justin, I'm going to call the phone number that was provided on the application, so that way you can call into the meeting.
Hi, Sarah.
Justin, can you hear us? It's not particularly clear. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
There we go. Okay, it didn't work on my cell phone.
All right, well, the floor is yours, so please give us your presentation.
Well, they'd like to alter their deck situation, and it encroaches a little on the side setback. 3 feet to nothing over, you saw my stakes. The first set of stakes was laying out the deck perimeter, and then the side setback that were going 3 feet to nothing was done by another set of stakes, and that's what they like.
Okay. Does anyone wish to have this gentleman go through the criteria? Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this?
There is no one in the audience.
The correspondence, this is from Judith Giorgio. She writes on 5/23, I have no concerns regarding the proposed new deck. And that's the extent of that. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak either against this application or has a specific question? If so, please indicate now on the screen.
There's no one that wishes to speak in opposition or has a specific question.
Okay, questions from the board? Dave T?
Dave T. doesn't have any questions.
Dave E?
Dave Each has no questions.
Buck has no questions.
Paul?
Paul has no questions.
I'm sorry, Bill?
Hey, Bill?
No questions.
Randy?
No questions.
And I have none. All right, Paul?
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Each seconds.
Need a vote on that, Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Paul?
All votes yes.
Dave T?
Dave T., yes.
Dave Each votes yes.
And I vote yes also. Okay, Dave?
It's just a little tiny addition on a deck. I have no problems with it. I'll vote yes.
It's a slightly more non-conforming and sideline setback to the house, but not substantial in any way. It's not certainly not substantially detrimental to the neighborhood, and I find that it meets all the other criteria.
So when I was there, the stakes for the deck, some of them were pretty good, and some of them, maybe a child moved. But nevertheless, I went by the blueprint instead of the stakes, and I have no problem supporting it.
Bill?
I would agree.
Randy?
Agree.
Paul?
I agree with the previous comments.
All right, Paul, do you think we need to condition this in any way, shape, or form?
Given the size of the project and the fact that there's really very little traffic on that road, when I was there, the traffic was basically landscapers, and they took up a fair amount of room. But I would just move to approve it as submitted.
Okay.
Dave Each seconds.
Buck votes yes.
Paul votes yes.
Dave Thompson votes yes.
Dave Each votes yes.
And I vote yes, that's a unanimous decision. Thank you, Mr. Wart.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, Sarah, 22-041, please.
Application number 22-041, Katama Point LLC, care of Joe Giacalone, 1 Presidential Way, Suite 109, Woburn, Mass. 01801. Owner of property located at 68 Shell Drive, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 14K, Block 7, Lot W50. The applicant seeks to modify special permit number 20-081 granted on November 18th, 2021, which allowed for the relocation of a portion of the existing dwelling and conversion into guest quarters, and the construction of a new dwelling, garage, and pool cabana with swimming pool. The applicant now seeks to modify this special permit to allow for an alternate design of the swimming pool and deck and stairs. The approved building coverage will remain 6,055 square feet, 71.6%. The lot contains 8,455 square feet of buildable upland in an R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Sections 6 and 9, and Sections 5B and 8D 2B of the protective bylaw.
And I see we have Mr. and Mrs. Jagaloni with us again. How are the two of you?
Doing good, thank you.
Great.
Very good.
Great. Well, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Chairman Nixon, members of the board. Just before you here to see if we can get a minor modification to the pool shape. And the reason for that is the architect wasn't all that familiar with auto covers, pool safety covers. She had it on the wider end of the pool instead of the narrower end. And also the structural engineer is requiring us to, because it's an above grade pool, requiring us to build a concrete retaining wall, if you will, around the pool. And she did up a little sketch that shows the explanation for that. Yeah, here's one of the diagrams. So the pool contractor, Environmental Pools, suggested you really should make this pool narrower and longer rather than the shape that was approved. So we would like to ask to see if you guys are okay with this minor adjustment, and moving the steers to the west that were right there, exactly. There's a nook that we would put the steers within. We showed the plan to conservation and they seemed okay with it. Said no need to come back. And that's basically it. You have the steers right there on the right of the new steers,
Okay.
and everything else remains the same.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in favor of this? If so, please indicate on the screen so that you wish to join the meeting.
There's no one in the audience that wishes to speak in favor.
So I'll read the correspondence. The first is from Judith Giorgio, Board of Health. She writes on 5/25, the plans to modify the special permit regarding the pool and steps are acceptable to the Health Division. There will be no impact on the subsurface sewage disposal system design. And then we get a note from our conservation agent, Nicole Smith. She writes on May 17th, the minor pool modification was approved by the Conservation Department in April 2022. That's the extent of the correspondence. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak either against this or has a specific question? If so, please indicate on the screen you wish to enter the meeting.
There is no one that wishes to speak in opposition or has a specific question.
Okay, so we'll have questions from the board. Buck?
Buck has no questions.
Bill?
No questions.
Randy?
No questions.
Paul?
No questions.
Dave?
Dave T., no questions.
Dave E.?
And I have no questions.
And I have none either.
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds.
We need a vote on that. Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Paul?
Paul votes yes.
Dave?
Dave T., yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes. Okay. Deliberations. Bill?
Yeah, I don't have any comment on this. This is a minor change, and I will say I'm pretty impressed with the progress you've made out there. There's quite a bit going on, and everything looks pretty good.
Thank you, sir.
Randy?
I agree with Bill. I wouldn't have any comments.
Paul?
As you know, I voted against this proposal when it originally came in, and I still feel that that was correct, but in terms of this particular change, I don't think the change is significant enough that it would make it substantially more detrimental than the overall concept is, and that horse is out of the barn, so I intend to vote yes.
It's okay with me?
Yeah, as was pointed out to me by one of the guys on site, whose name I didn't get, but he did a great job of presenting. He pointed out that the pool will actually move slightly further away from the resource area, and so that's an improvement. And it's not a minor change, and I certainly will support it.
Buck,
And I'll support also.
okay.
I'll move to approve the application as submitted. I don't think we need any conditions other than the conditions that were proposed originally, which were none. It's so far down the road that it's gone. So I'll just move to approve it as submitted.
And Dave Veach seconds.
Okay, we need a vote on that. Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Paul?
All votes yes?
Dave T?
Dave Thompson, yes.
Dave
Dave
V?
Veach votes
And I
yes.
vote yes. Congratulations, that's a unanimous decision, and thank you very much.
Thank you, folks. Have a good night.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
So, do we have any other business to be discussed? I guess not.
Our next two meetings, our June meetings, will begin at 3 PM.
We got a lot of business, a lot of business.
I'll move to adjourn.
Okay, what time is it, Sarah?
5:23 PM.
Okay, at 5:23, we need a roll call vote. Buck?
Votes yes.
Bill?
Bill votes yes.
Randy?
All votes yes?
Dave?
Dave T, yes.
Dave?
Dave Veach votes
And I
yes.
vote yes, that's a unanimous decision. Thank you, one and all. See you at 3 o'clock in 2 weeks.